Now, you mentioned my granddad. My dad's turned out. My dad sadly passed away 45 years ago. He was an amazing influence on me. He was a great piano player, great musician. Interestingly enough, I found out after he died, 'cause he had no money, that half of his entire income went on my piano lessons. So I've got a lot to thank the old boy for. He was a lovely guy. He gave me a lot of advice over the years as well. I remember when I was about 16, he said to me, "Son, you're playing in lots of bands now." I said, "I know, Dad. Yeah, it's good." He said, "You're going to lots of different places." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Can I give you a word of advice?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Look, son, don't go into any of those dirty, nasty, sleazy strip clubs, will you?" He said, "Because if you do, you're bound to see something you shouldn't." I went, "Okay, Dad." So of course I went, and I saw my dad. But he was truly an amazing influence on me in many respects. I was born in 1949, and in the 50s, we had an old 78 record player. Actually, it was new then, that was terrifying. A 78 record player with lots of 78s. And my dad collected New Orleans Dixieland jazz. He loved it. And he introduced me to it, and I loved it as well. I still do to this day. It's just absolutely fantastic stuff. And there was one particular record he had, which I inherited now, which was by the Mesro Tommy Ladnier Quintet. And it was a version of Sweet Georgia Brown, which I loved. And I was about 11, and I remember saying to Dad, "Can you teach it to me, Dad?" He went, "Yeah, okay." So he sat at the piano, and we did it as a duet. I'd play the top part, he'd play the bottom part, then I'd play the bottom part, he'd play the top part. And it was a lot of fun. And I thought, as a thank you to my dad, a little bit of a tribute. It's only short. I'd do a version especially for him, really. And so what I've done, I've put the part I used to play and the part he used to play together as one part. And so this is the Mesro Tommy Ladnier Cyril Frank Wakeman version of Sweet Georgia Brown. So I've done some Cat Stevens, something else. I've done David Bowie, a bit for me dad, my granddad. I've got to do some Yes stuff. I'll have to do it's interesting, on the ARW tour we went out with Trevor. We travelled around in an SUV and we never ran out of things to talk about. It was just laugh a minute, really. It was great fun. And one of the conversations one day was all about the Yes song titles. And I remember I said to John, where do some of our song titles come from? He said, I don't know. I said, well, you know, some of them are a bit strange. Are they? Yeah, I mean, look, I I said, Siberian Katru, what the hell is that all about? Sounds like some Eastern European vegetable. Anyway, so we got to, and I said, listen, we were just laughing away, and I said, the truth of the matter is, John, our song titles are nothing compared to some country and western song titles. And there's a whole website dedicated to silly country and western song titles, which they really are nice. Don't get me wrong, I've got nothing against country and western. Country rock, I love it, it's great. And a lot of the banjo picking and all that, so that's really clever. It's when you go back a bit further to what I call the Jim Reeves stuff. I don't get that at all. I find that very, very morbid. I mean, the record's all right if you play it backwards so the dog comes back to life and things like that, but it's just, I'd be awful otherwise. So here's some of my favourite country and western song titles. You look them all up, they all exist. Kindly Get Off the Gas Stove, Granny, You're Too Old to Ride the Range. There's a lot of Christian ones as well, which have got ridiculous titles, which my favourite is Drop Kick Me Jesus Through the Goalposts of Life. Now here's an interesting one. There's a story that goes with this, absolutely true story that goes with this. She sits amongst the cabbages and peas. Now, I was with a great friend of mine called Roy Hudd, near where I live on the east coast of England, and he's one of the surviving guys from the last days of music hall. He's in his 90s now, Roy, and there isn't anything he doesn't know about music hall and variety. And I love having lunches and talking with him because he just gives me so much history, and I love the whole history of our business and things. And we were talking about all these song titles one day, and he came to She Sits Amongst the Cabbages and Peas. He went, Rick, tell you something. He said, that was never originally a country and western song. I said, no. He said, no. He said, it was originally written in the 1890s by a singer called Murray Lloyd. And she wrote it and she sang it around the theatres in the 1890s. And I went, oh, right. He said, but the theatre owners said it was too rude to sing. So unless she changed the words, she couldn't sing it. So I said, so she never sang it again. He said, oh, no, she changed the words to She Sits Amongst the Cabbages and Leaks. Now, absolute true story. It's all online if you want to look it up. There's some fantastic ones. But I suppose the silliest song title, which I love of country and western, is I Call My Willie Nelson because he's only got one eye. I can wait. It's a great, it exists, look at all that, have a bit of fun. Anyway, I'm going to do 3 yes-related pieces. One piece I wrote with John called The Meeting from the ABWH album. Then I'll do, from the Piano Odyssey album, I'll do a piano version of And You and I, and also Wondrous Stories. Yeah. joining us. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. I'm going to finish off tonight with two pieces I didn't write. I wish I had done. Both Lennon McCartney songs again. And when I was at the Royal College of Music, I had a wonderful orchestration professor called Philip Cannon, who used to give me exercises of taking the music of one composer and doing them in the style of another composer, and I love doing that. So the two pieces I've chosen to do for you is a John Lennon piece, which is Help, which, interestingly enough, John Lennon wrote that as a ballad, and it was turned into a pop song for the film. He hated it. He wanted it as a ballad. And if you listen to it very carefully, listen to the words and listen to the whole thing, you'll understand that it actually was meant to be a ballad. And the style I do it, which is the sort of the style of the French composer Sanson, is very much like that, as a sort of a ballad. And if you want to hear a great version of Help, go back to the very first Deep Purple album, Shades of Deep Purple. They got a fantastic version of Help on that, which is really good. And the other piece I'm going to do is I'm going to do Eleanor Rigby in the style of Sergei Prokofiev. Yeah, that's riveted. You haven't seen that. Now I can do Eleanor Rigby in the style of Prokofiev for two reasons, of course. One is that Prokofiev's dead, so there's not really much you can do about it. And the other reason, of course, is that McCartney never ever comes to hear me play, so I don't give a toss what I do to his music. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. nearly shot me. I had a vicious Thai curry earlier. I just wondered if that was the cause of obviously not. Aren't encores stupid? I mean, you know I'm only standing over there. I'm standing there wondering, I wonder if they're going to clap long enough for me to come out, and they're going, I bet he's having a wee. Trouble is, at my age, you never know. Anyway, I don't believe in all this going off and coming back on and doing loads of encore things, or balls really. So I'm going to do another couple of pieces, and thank you very much for coming up. I can tell you that at the beginning I told you that every story had a percentage of truth. If you add all the stories together, I can tell you that 65% of everything I've told you tonight is true. So you've just got 35% to work out which isn't. I'll give you a little bit of a clue. Viagra is not a painkiller. Anyway, the one other thing that I told you which is not true, David Bowie did tell me to write everything on the piano, and 95% of everything I've ever written, I did write on the piano, except for this next piece. There was one album I didn't write on the piano, which was the King Arthur album. And in 1975, I found myself in hospital for 9 weeks. I had 3 heart attacks. I've stopped having them because they hurt. And I was in hospital, nowhere to go, and I had a lot of music paper, manuscript paper, and I wrote most King Arthur on the paper. I never heard it till I came out of hospital and played what I'd written. So it was quite interesting. And hospitals are an interesting place, because they're a great place to observe things that are going on. I was in a big ward, split into sections, and I was in a section with four guys, and I was far and away the youngest. I was, 26, they were all probably about my age now. And the guy on the right of me, he was pretty poor. He had an oxygen mask and things all the time. I remember one day a nurse coming around and she's doing blood pressures, looking at the charts. She got to his bed and he went, "Nurse." She went, "Yes." He said, "Are my testicles black?" She said, "Pardon?" He said, "Are my testicles black?" And she said, "Well, I'm only doing your blood pressure." He said, "No, nurse, are my testicles black?" She said, "Well, I'll have a look." I thought, God, watch this. And she lifted up the sheets and he ripped off the mask and went, "Nurse, are my test results back?" Now, if any of you men are due into hospital, it might be worth a try, actually. You never know what might happen. This is one of the pieces that I wrote in the hospital at that time. This is Merlin the Magician. and for this, actually, the story, this is an absolute 100% true story, and in fact it's watered down, so if I told you the actual truth, you'd never believe me. I needed a chair if there's one out there. Oh, brilliant. Oh, nice, good. Brilliant. Yeah, just stick it there, that'd be great, just down there. Oh, sorry, so over that way a little bit more. Thanks. And just back a little bit for me. Just back a little. That's great, thanks ever so much. Cheers. Now, as I say, this is watered down. 1985 was a pivotal year for me in many respects. It was the year that I had to, I did have to stop drinking because the doctor said if I carried on I'd die. And I thought, I quite like it here, I like my family, I like the music, I quite like the world. So I gave up, which was it was interesting because I was very good. I was a very good drinker. I was in the British Olympic drinking team for many years. Me and my band, we were good. Anyway, so that was the year I stopped. But something happened in 1985 as well, which was quite interesting, involving drinking. My Saturdays back then, when I was at home, were quite sacrosanct. What I did, I went out in the morning and played golf with my mates at the golf club. Then I would come back to the town I lived in, which is called Camberley in Surrey, and I would go to a little Italian restaurant that I liked, and I'd have a little Italian meal. Then I'd go down to Camberley Town Football Club, where I was the chairman, and watch them lose. They lost every week without fail. That was the only thing that was consistent about them. To say they were rubbish would be exaggerating how good they were, but it was... Anyway, this particular Saturday in April, in 1985, I went off, played golf, came into Camberley, and for whatever reason, and I don't even know the reason to this day, the little Italian restaurant was closed. But I was hungry. I thought, I'll go eat something. And the only thing that was open was a very dodgy Indian restaurant. It was known to be dodgy. I mean, even the dogs walked 3 streets away to go and grab it. It was bad. But I was hungry, and I went in, and my stomach's talking to me, going, please don't do this. I'll be all right, I'll be all right. At night, I'll be all right. So I had this curry, and I'm sure you must have had a meal like it sometime. I knew while I was eating it, it was a mistake. And I'm sure we've all done that at some time. Anyway, I ate it. I went down to the football ground, watched us lose. We got absolutely stuffed, and being the chairman, I had to entertain the chairman of the opposing side and his directors. So we're in the old director's room after, and I said, oh, congratulations on your win. He said, oh, thank you, Rick. He said, I thought our 9th goal was a little lucky, but... And at that moment, I had this huge gripe feeling, that terrible tightening, and I went, ah! He said, are you all right? I went, no. I said, I've had a really dodgy curry and it's going through me like a Ferrari. He said, well, do you want to go and use the toilet? I said, not here, not the football. I said, this is going to be a proper job. I'm going to have to go home. This is with the newspaper and everything. See, this is a big number. He went, okay, off you go. I said, yeah, cheers, bye. So I got in my car, and I only lived a mile from the ground, one road, 30 mile an hour limit. I'm in a line of traffic, we're all doing 35. And there was a policeman standing on the corner with his radar gun. He's letting everybody go by, points at me, in. I went, oh, bugger. So I pulled in, and he came over. It wasn't a local policeman, because I knew all the local policemen. And he said, have you been down to Camberley Town Football Club? I said, yeah. He said, have you had a drink? I said, I've had a brandy and a pint of lager. He said, well, you've admitted having a drink, so I'm going to give you an alcohol breath test. So I said, okay. So he gave me an alcohol breath. He said, you failed by 1 point. I went, well, now, normally they used to use a bit of discretion over that, but this guy was obviously out to get me. He went, so you're under arrest, so stand down, waiting for a car to take us to the police station. So I'm standing there, and the people come out of their houses, and I lived up the road, so they probably knew what was it. And I'm standing, and this gripe, he went, you're right. I went, no. I said, I've had a dodgy curry, and I said, it's about to come out now. And I said, can I walk to the police station? It's only 200 yards. He went, no. I said, well, can we use somebody's house? He went, no. I went, oh. And then another police motorbike pulled up. It was a mate of mine, Murray. He said, is it all right? I said, no, I failed the breathalyzer thing by 1 point. He went, oh. He said, he's not one of ours. He's from Chertsey, I think. I went, oh, well. I said, that's not the main problem. I said, the main problem is, I said, I had a dodgy curry. He said, you've not been to the Raj, have you? I went, yeah. He went, we're closing that down next week. I went, it's closing me down now. I'm in real trouble. And I said, he won't let me walk to the police station, but I wouldn't even get there now. I said, I need to use somebody's house. And he went, I'll have a word. So he goes over and has a word with this horrible, nasty copper, and he comes back, puts me in an arm lock at the back, marches me across the road to this woman's house with this woman standing on the doorstep. He said, madam. She went, yes. He said, do you have a downstairs toilet? She went, I do. He said, I'm commandeering it for the use of my prisoner. So we go in. It was hilarious, really. He goes in and she says, it's in that room there. So he sort of goes in and he says, you wait there. So he goes, inspects it. I don't know what he thought I was going to do, hide round the U-bend or something daft. He came out and he went, all right, son, in you go. So I go into the toilet and I go to shut the door and he puts his size 14 boot in the door. I said, what are you doing? He said, you're not shutting the door, son. I said, you've got no idea what's coming, have you? No clue. So I take my trousers down and I'm sitting there on the loo and I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. Here I am in my best suit. I've been done for failing the breath test. I'm on a stranger's toilet. I'm in a dump after an incredibly dodgy curry with a policeman's size 14 boot in the door. Nothing else could possibly happen. And at that moment, through the crack in the door, came my Journey to the Centre of the Earth album cover. And this woman's voice said, will you sign it for my son, Jeffrey? Now, up until 2 years ago, that's where the story used to finish. But 2 years ago, I was out doing the piano portraits tour, and there were some people with some stuff to sign after the show. This one guy had quite a few albums, and I'm signing them, going, and I said, oh, I've signed that one. He went, read it. So I took it back, and he went, to Jeffrey, I'm sitting on your mum's toilet. So I actually got to meet him, bless him. The final piece of music is in fact sort of related to Journey to the Centre of the Earth, because I did a sequel called Return to the Centre of the Earth. This is one of the pieces off of it, which is a piano piece that I recorded with a full orchestra and choir. As you see, I'm not here tonight, but I wanted to play it. So what I did, I went back into the studio and I recorded the choir and the orchestra without me. Which means that here tonight in San Francisco, for the very first time, I could play for you Dance of a Thousand Lights karaoke. Can you start it again? Can you put it in the monitor?